Greg Jefferson is the business editor of the San Antonio Express-News. Also from the Express-News, Metro columnist Gilbert Garcia. Thank you for joining us, and the conversation continues. Is there some disconnect under the new city manager growing up at City Hall? You wrote about apparently some disagreements between city council and city staff over the placement of bike lanes around the Pearl. How serious is that, and should we be concerned as taxpayers?
Well, I think that Eric Walsh, the new city manager, is I think very mindful of trying to have a good relationship with the city council. One of the things that was interesting to me in working on this was talking to Shirley Gonzalez, who has been upset about the way city staff has handled this issue. But she said, you know, we had issues with Cheryl Scully during her 13 years as city manager, but she kind of kept those under wraps, whereas Eric, by nature, is maybe a more open person. And so maybe these things are getting exposed a little more, you know, because of that, you know, which is it might be contrary to the way what you would expect, but I think, you know, there might be some truth to that it's just, and I think also because this issue is such a polarizing issue.
Yeah, there does seem with Eric Walsh. I mean, he seems to be. As far as in terms of personality, worlds apart from Cheryl Scully. I mean, she had a very kind of dominating, forceful, I think, personality,
and very closed in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Although I must say, I mean, I've been surprised by how little we've seen of Eric Walsh publicly. I mean, he does seem to be working behind the scenes a lot more than Cheryl Scully. Like she was for 13 years, kind of the face of city government, and Eric Walsh seems to be much more willing to let his department heads, his deputies, and his assistant city managers kind of take the lead on different initiatives. You just see a lot more of them in public and in the media.
So is this going to cause dissension moving forward? I mean, this is a key issue. We can't have the city staff and the city council at loggerheads over issues like this. We're never going to get anything done.
Right, and I think I think it's fair to say that a majority of council members sort of understand the concerns or the limitations when you look at Lower Broadway, that putting protected bike lanes in there would be a difficult thing to do. So I think it's a minority of the council members who are upset about it, but they've been very vocal, and of course one of them is the mayor, who has done a lot, I think, to keep this issue alive, because he basically lent his voice to the cause of the bicyclists who wanted to have this.
And to their defense, bike lanes and other alternative types of transportation, which will presumably be stressed in the Connect SA proposal, have not exactly gotten the attention of city government over the past decades.
Yeah, and one of the things that you'll hear from bicyclists is, well, the city is always sort of giving priority to cars. But as you mentioned, there was the study from Pape Dawson looking at the number. If you look at the numbers, we're talking about, I don't know what, but maybe 20 times, 50 times the number of cars that we're seeing and will expect to see on Broadway compared to bicycles. And so logic would tell you you have to deal with what if people are using cars to go through that corridor, you have to address that. But I think that there's a little bit of a social engineering argument when it comes to the bicycle community, which is we want to encourage that and maybe change people's patterns of behavior.
And I think that's what came first kind of attitude. What came first, more bicyclists or improvements in bike lanes and the bike infrastructure to enable the bicyclists to feel safer on the streets? Greg, there's always a controversy about the use of public tax abatements and tax benefits to help private industry. It's kind of the name of the game when it comes to economic development. But when it comes to providing tax incentives to something like Geekdom, a startup, there's a lot of controversy about that. Why did the city decide to move in that direction?
Well, I mean, I think there's been a close relationship between the city and Geekdom for a long time. I mean, the city, even before this grant, was giving Geekdom, and is right now, about $200,000 a year for it's called CivTech. These are technology. These are startups that are developing technologies that are supposed to help with different city government problems or problems you find around the town, like the timing of streetlights or connecting affordable housing, people looking for affordable housing with actual properties. So relationships between City Hall and Geekdom go way back, and we kind of forget that Geekdom is a for-profit real estate venture. I mean, they're basically a local version of WeWork. They survive by renting office space to startups and individuals in different institutions. That's how they make their money. Their job isn't to support city missions or anything like that. We often talk about it almost like it's a nonprofit, and I think that makes it easy for the city to say, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving $250,000 to
The
Geekdom.
Salvation Army.
Yeah. It's like it would be the same as giving it to TechBlock, which is actually TechBlock is the industry advocacy group, but it actually is a nonprofit. Geekdom, believe it or not, I swear, it is for profit. It's a private sector company. You would be loath to see anybody at City Hall talking about that, but it's true.
And then they just received tax money to help with some of their startup efforts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, $250,000. That is going to be layered on top of the $200,000 they're already giving to help these civ tech companies develop new technologies.
Greg Jefferson is the business editor of the San Antonio Express News. Gilbert Garcia, Metro columnist, San Antonio Express News. Thanks for joining us on The Conversation Continues.